So we're up to Siftes on page Chavtes. Validei Giluya Achdus Pratim should be Yisrael, Daled Sugim should be Chlal Yisrael, Daled Darga should be Neshama, Nishmas Kol Echad, through revealing the unity in the details of the Jewish people, meaning in the four categories of people represented by the Lulav, by bringing the Lulav together, which unites the four categories of Jews, and also within each person we have four levels that are those four categories. Within each one of us, there's also the Torah and mitzvos, the lack of Torah and mitzvos, the bit of this, bit of that. So by uniting all that together, by bringing the Lulav together, we draw down something else through the mitzvah of the Daled Minim, which is that we reveal through the Daled Minim that the Jewish people have won the court case. In a way that even the nations of the world agree with, that the Jewish people have won, to the point where they praise Hashem that we have received God's chesed, His kindness. The idea is this. The idea of ribui, of multiplicity, is mainly by the non-Jewish nations. It's not really a Jewish trait. Multiplicity, division, is not natural to the Jewish people. That's something that amongst the non-Jewish nations it exists, but not really by the Jewish people. Why? Apart from the fact that the Jewish people are the smallest of all nations, we're one small nation amongst the 70 nations. But at the same time, the entire Jewish people are really one being, one entity, one soul. Then other nations are individual divided beings. The Jewish people are one entity, are actually a united entity. This is an essential difference between the Jewish nation and all other nations. In all other nations they have unity in that they're one nation, but they are all individuals, parts of one nation. The Jewish people are not individuals, we're all one soul, we're actually one entity, we're one being. Unity is our natural state. The reason why the entire Jewish people are really one is because our source is in Hashem, in Yud Kei Vav Kei, in Havaya Echad. The source of the Jewish soul is in Havaya, which is oneness. So therefore the Jewish people are one. Oneness is our natural state. It's where we come from. Whereas the nations of the world come from Elokim, which is Ribui, as we'll see. The idea that the Jewish people are one doesn't just mean that we're not separate like the nations are, each individual of every nation is a separate entity. Not only we're not that, but we are completely higher and beyond the concept of division, which even angels and even the higher realms of creation are subject to division, because they were created from the Shem Elikim, which is Lashon Rabim. The name Elikim is a plural word, Elikim. We're talking about one God, but it's Hashem as He invests His energy in various different levels. And so each angel has its own divine energy that enlivens it, that's separate from another one. Each world has a different energy that enlivens it. They come from the name Elikim, whereas we come from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is one. So therefore, it's not just that we're united; we're beyond the concept of division. Our soul comes from a place that's higher than division, unlike angels, unlike the worlds, and certainly unlike the nations of the world. But even more than that, we come from we're even higher than the division of the name of Hashem Elikim, which is plural. Which the name Elikim is a name that refers to the the light that fills all worlds, which means that gives each world its own level of godliness. So what the Rabbi here is saying is that the Jewish soul is not just higher than the nations of the world which are divided. It's not just higher than the worlds and the angels that are created from division. The Jewish soul is even higher than the name of Hashem Elikim. It's coming from a higher place than that, because the name Elikim itself is already a division. It's a Lashon Rabbi. It's plural. That level of Elokus, we're beyond that level. We're higher than that. But nevertheless, even having said that we're coming from Havaya. Because superficially, externally, you do find division amongst the Jewish people, meaning you and I are separate beings. Even though we're not really we're one, but we don't feel that necessarily, we don't live on that plane. Externally there is division. Through bringing down unity within the multiplicity of the Jewish people, that draws down into creation, into the name Elikim unity as well, and also into the multiplicity of the world and of creation. To the point where all of the many creations in this world also are infused with a sense of unity. Meaning, the Jewish people have this very strange thing about us. Well, we have a few things, but the main complexity of the Jewish people is that on the one hand, we are a part of Hashem, a part of unity, oneness, beyond this world. At the same time, but at the same time, we're totally a part of this world. We're totally down here. We're completely human. We're completely like everybody else. One person said that the Jewish people are exactly like everybody else, but more so. There's something, we're like everyone, but there's other thing as well, that we're a part of Hashem. That means that we can be the bridge between Elokus as it is beyond this world and the way this world is. So on the one hand, the Jewish people have this oneness in our soul, unity, which comes from Havai, which is even higher than Elokim. On the other hand, we inhabit the world down here where we're divided. Jews don't always get on with each other. There is the possibility of disunity and disharmony and separateness and multiplicity amongst the Jewish people. That's fantastic, because that means that we can bridge the unity that's beyond with the reality that's down here. So when the Jewish people overcome their differences and express their inner unity, that influences the world around us, that brings unity to the world. We draw down the energy of unity into the world, to the point where the name Elikim is really one. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Jewish people can achieve that. And the worlds are really one. And the creations of the world, those who inhabit the world, are really one. We bring oneness into the world. The square brackets. Because the idea of how plentiful are your creations, Hashem, that we say that davening, it's a positive, which is referring to the chalkus, the division and the multiplicity of the world. How many creations are there? So many billions of species. That's talking about mainly about this world. Of all the worlds, this world has the most multiplicity. It's the most divided world. And so unity is more desperately needed down here, in this world. And this includes the ribui, the multiplicity and the division of the nations of the world. There are 70 nations, and each individual in the nation is separate. We can bring unity into that. So we can say this is the connection between the two interpretations of what the four species represent. What were they? One interpretation is that they correspond to the four categories of Jews. Another interpretation is that they represent four levels of godliness, which we said earlier. So, how can we connect these two interpretations? The idea of the four levels of godliness is that the divine light that fills all worlds, gives each world of the four, Atzilus, Briya, Yitzira, and Asiya, its particular divine energy. So there's four different emanations of the divine to enliven the four different worlds. Through bringing unity into the multiplicity, into the four levels, the four categories of the Jewish people, the four levels of the Jewish people, through bringing the Jewish people together, we actually draw down unity into the four levels of godly light, the four worlds. And through that brings unity into all of creation, all the way down to the nations of the world. So the nations, the physical people, the human beings in the world become united. So starting with the unity of the Jewish people. If the Jewish people unite, so then all of creation can unite. Because we are that bridge between the divine reality beyond and the physical reality down here. So the four species coming together means the four levels of godliness coming together, which means everything can come together. But it has to start with the Jewish people.
So unity is not just good for us, it brings peace to the harmony.
And when the Jewish people are united, so then there's the possibility of unity. Otherwise, there's actually not a possibility of unity in the world, because the world is a world of ischalkus, maamar masecha. There's so much. It's division. Unity is not a natural part of the universe. Only when the Jewish people bring the divine unity into the world is unity introduced into the world. We are that bridge that connects those two realities.
When you're like in Israel, it's so hard. You see the division. That's the idea.
That's the idea. Like, why are the Jewish people so ridden with strife and discord and disunity? Because our job is to bring unity all the way into the world of
now that I'm comparing to what's happening in Syria or Libya. But it's actually deeper on a more philosophical.
Right, because it matters more. That's the crux of the whole creation. So Yud, Al Pikol and Al Muvan. So according to everything we've learned till now, we can understand. The idea that through the Daled Minim we achieve that even the nations of the world should agree that the Jewish people are victorious, meaning the unity of godliness wins the day, to the point where they praise Hashem for the closeness that He has given us, for the relationship that we have with Hashem. They praise, the nations of the world recognize it and praise. That is even higher than the victory itself. Greater than the fact that the Jewish people have this relationship is the fact that the nations of the world recognize it. Why? Because when even the non-Jewish nations, particularly those who were originally opposition to the Jewish people and needed to be beaten and conquered and won over, when those nations when they are praising Hashem because we have been victorious, because we are close to Him, that is an amazing revolution. That's a real innovation. As we said earlier in the maamar. Apart from the fact that is a real fulfillment of the entire purpose of creation. That Hashem should be recognized in this lowly world, in the lowest possible world. So this is an unbelievable thing the Rabbi is saying. The Rabbi is saying is that what's the test that we have fulfilled our mission as Jewish people? The test is if the non-Jewish nations praise us and praise Hashem for our special relationship with Him. And that's not just a test, but that's a fulfillment of the purpose of creation. That the lowliest of lowly worlds is recognizing us. Even those who are enemies are recognizing Hashem. Now the truth is, this idea will really be Lasad Lav when Mashiach comes. That's when the nations will really recognize and subjugate themselves and nullify themselves to the Jewish people. That's a Mashiach thing. Like the prophet Zechariah said, that every single Jew will have 2,800 servants that will hold on to his four tzitzis, the four corners of your garment. They'll be serving you. Every single Jew will have 2,800 servants serving you. Okay, that's when Mashiach comes. But a similar thing, a flavor of this, a foretaste of it can come in Golus as well. Particularly in the times immediately before the coming of Mashiach. So this maamar was said in 1978.
Rabbi became prime minister.
So there were certain times when the nations of the world praised Israel for taking a strong stance. That's a taste of what will happen when Mashiach comes. When the nations of the earth will send support to Israel. That's a foretaste of what we're talking about here. But that can only happen when the Jewish people are united and clear about their mission. Now we understand what we started with. That the Torah says you should take for yourself on the first day. Which we said, what does it mean first day? It's the 15th. No, it's not the first. It's the first day of the new cheshbon, the new calculation. Because you've been forgiven for everything on Yom Kippur. So now you've been busy for 4 days with the Sukkah mitzvos. So now on Sukkos, now we start a new calculation. What does that mean? Even though the revelation of the victory that the Jewish people had, that they by brandishing the Daled Minim, is a revelation of the victory of Rosh Hashanah's judgment. And that, as far as that's concerned, it would be more fitting to call Sukkot the 15th day after Rosh Hashanah, because we're revealing the victory that happened on Rosh Hashanah. Nevertheless, the fact that through the Daled Minim, through the unity of the Jewish people, it achieves that the nations unite together with the Jewish people and recognize the victory of the Jewish people. The fact that they will praise Hashem for that, that is such a new thing, such a new level. So therefore it's called the first day. This is a new thing. This is a real revelation. This is a revolution. This is a new idea. So therefore Sukkot is called the first day. Because it's one thing that we won the court case on Rosh Hashanah, but on Sukkot, the nations of the world agree with it and happy with it and praise Hashem for it. That's so new. It's called Yom HaRishon. This is a new era. We've reached a new level. So therefore, it's not called the 15th, making it a hemshech, a continuation from Rosh Hashanah. It's called the first because it's such a revolution. Al Pisa yesh loim masham razal. B'schar shloisha rishon shvisas haregel the Pesach shvisas haregel the Chag until it's Lulav zachal shloisha rishon lahachrat zara shel Esav lebinyan beis hamikdash ulishmoy shel Mashiach. So there's an interesting medrash that says this. It's in the Gemara that in the merit of 3 firsts, we were rewarded with 3 firsts. What were the 3 firsts, the 3 rishons? That Shvisas HaRegel de Pesach, it says on the first day of Pesach you have to have a Yontiv. That's called a Rishon, the first day. Shvisas HaRegel de Chag, the first day of Sukkos, it says B'Yom HaRishon. And taking the Lulav, which is also called B'Yom HaRishon. These 3 firsts, Pesach, the first day, Sukkos, the first day, and taking the Lulav, because of those 3 mitzvahs, we merited 3 firsts. What were the firsts? To uproot the children of Esav, our enemies, to build the Beis, and Esav was the firstborn, to build the Beis Hamikdash, which is the choicest and the highest place in the world, and the name of Mashiach. We merited the name of Mashiach, who is the Rishon LeZion, the highest of all. Now, what does that mean? The firstness of the 4 species is higher than the firstness of the first day of Sukkot. Why do we know? Why is that?
So the firstness, what of taking them? The time? Is it talking about the first?
Well, the Torah calls it calls taking the Lulav Rishon.
It doesn't talk about this mitzvos.
Yeah, even though the mitzvah Sukkah, there's the first day of Sukkot, but specifically the Lulav is described as Rishon more directly, and that's because of this revolution that the Lulav achieves specifically. Which doesn't make sense. Because the 4 species is just drawing down the energy of the sukkah in a pneumistic way. That the sukkah brings unity in a makif, it surrounds you. The lulav brings it in a pneumis, an internal way, uniting in more internally. How could the lulav be higher than the sukkah? If the lulav is just drawing down what the sukkah is, how could the lulav be even higher, be even greater? The explanation is this. Because it's this 4 species that actually allow us to fulfill the purpose of creation, to create a dwelling place for Hashem down here in this world. So therefore the reward of that is the revelation of Atzmos Shmosh Mashiach, the coming of Mashiach. Meaning, why is Lulav higher than Sukkah? Even though Lulav is an expression of Sukkah, but what is Lulav is bringing the unity of the Sukkah down into the world of multiplicity. Remember we said earlier in the maamar that in the Sukkah everyone's equal, but in the Arba Minim you're not all equal. There's an Esrog and there's a Ravas. They're different, but they're united. Bringing unity into multiplicity is even more powerful than having a unity without multiplicity in the first place. Bringing unity into the world, that's the greatest achievement. And so, because that's the whole purpose of creation, so the Lulav achieves that. That's the greatest. So the Rebbe ends with a bracha. Might be Hashem's will. That going from the time of joy, which is Sukkos, when you take for yourselves the four species and you celebrate with them, that joy should bring us to the biggest and ultimate joy very quickly. Simchas Olam al Rosham, when the joy of the entire world is on our heads, is something that we achieve. But Gula mitzvah shleima al Yom Mashiach with the complete and true redemption. Through Mashiach Tzidkenu Yov Yigalenu V'Yolechenu K'Mitzvah Tzenu, He should come redeem us and take us upright to our land. B'mheira B'Yemenu Mamash, may it happen extremely quickly.
So what's the three? Rishon, the first